Representative Aaron Kaufer calls up a resolution on page 3 of today's House calendar. And that's House Resolution 43, printer number 166. And there are some amendments offered by Representative Bradford. So will you please give us a summary of the bill? Of the resolution, I mean.
A resolution condemning the passage of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2334.
Okay, and then Representative Bradford has Amendment 198. And we'll call up that amendment right now, 198. And will the clerk give me a summary of that amendment, please?
A198.
Representative Bradford, if you would mind, please give us a summary of the amendment, and then also any remarks you have is appropriate at this time as well.
Thank you, Speaker. This resolution has many parts, but one thing I thought could improve upon it is simply adding a copy of House Resolution number 32. As the body may recall, House Resolution 32 was passed unanimously by this body, offered by Representative Nielsen, recognizing Holocaust Memorial Day in Pennsylvania. I believe it is straightforward in recognizing the death of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, and it seems appropriate at this time that we add it to this resolution. As you know, in these difficult days in which anti-Semitism sadly is on the rise here in our nation, and there are those who would deny the existence of the Holocaust, especially how it affected 6 million Jews worldwide, it seems appropriate that we attach this resolution and make clear that here in Pennsylvania, the Holocaust deniers and those who would engage in that type of behavior have no place. I'm glad to include it with the resolution, which makes clear that the UN Security Council, sad as it is to say, has a history of engaging in behavior that I believe is anti-Semitic, at least, dating back to their days of equating Zionism with a form of racism. I think that all forms of anti-Semitism should be equally denied. I believe Pennsylvania's legislative body has a good record, and it should be proud to say that House Resolution 32, offered by Representative Nielsen, passed unanimously by this body, is part of that track record, part of that history. And so while we'll call out the UN Security Council for its anti-Semitic positions and its history of engaging in behavior that we find inappropriate and one-sided towards the great state of Israel, we will also point out to those in any parts, in any quarters, who will deny the Holocaust. So this resolution is part of that, and I'm glad to offer this amendment for that reason. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Benninghoff has requested to be placed on leave without objection. That will be granted. And Representative Justin Simmons has requested to be placed on leave without objection. That will be granted. Representative Kaufer, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the gentleman for his amendment. While I do appreciate what he's trying to do, I do not believe that this is germane. It does not address the underlying resolution. The underlying resolution addresses the UN resolution passed last year. What he is trying to put into this amendment is in regard to a completely separate House Resolution 32, and I move that this amendment is not germane.
All those in favor, Representative Brett. The gentleman Representative Kaufer, the maker of the resolution, has raised the question of whether Amendment 198 is germane. Under House Rule 27, questions involving whether an amendment is germane to the subject shall be decided by the House. On that question, the chair recognizes Representative Bradford. It is my understanding that Representative Bradford, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe this germaneness motion is really a cop-out. It is a cop-out from our obligation here to say once and for all to UN Security Council that has too often picked on the state of Israel, that has not stood squarely with Israel, that tries to engage in these same kind of parliamentary procedures. Look, we live in a time right now where our own White House put out a resolution that failed to mention the death of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. Do we want to do in the Pennsylvania House what was roundly condemned by the ADL and other institutions that said hate has no place? We want to say we stand with Israel. We stand against anti-Semitism, whether it's historical or current day. We stand against it in the United States. We stand against it in the Security Council. It is wrong. There is no place for it. We can do better. Now, we can hide behind parliamentary tricks, which is the right of this body. We can put up a vote and do what we all know is wrong in our hearts and appease some political quarters. But what is the right thing to do is call out anti-Semitism. It's right to say to those, whether they're in the White House or in the Security Council, you will not deny that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. You will do right by history, and you will do right in this legislative body. There's no time to cop out. It's time to say to history, what happened, happened, and we here in the Pennsylvania legislature stand by our unanimous vote of just a few weeks ago. We condemn this type of behavior. We condemn it in the Security Council. We condemn it, period.
It's my understanding then, just to clarify to the members, that this amendment is asking for everybody to vote on a resolution that they've already unanimously voted in favor of. Everybody here has already unanimously voted for the amendment that the gentleman is trying to attach to this resolution. My understanding is that was unanimously passed on January 25th of 2017. So it was unanimously passed and everybody stood together on that particular amendment. Now, any discussions with respect to germaneness must be limited to the motion in question. And there's only one opportunity to speak. Representative Kaufer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This was something that we have already passed. This has nothing to do with the specific resolution that's underlying. We all in this body stand for acknowledgement that the Holocaust happened. I don't think there's anyone here that does not. And to be out here grandstanding on this issue when it's not pertinent to the issue that's underway, I would encourage my members that this is not germane and it's not indicative of the underlying resolution.
All those in favor all those who believe it is, only one time. All those who believe that it is germane will vote aye. All those who do not believe it is germane will vote nay. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? The clerk will record the vote. The nays are 113, the yeas are 70. The amendment is not germane. Rest assured, however, that you all voted for the underlying amendment unanimously on January 25th, 2017. Amendment 199 is called up by Representative Bradford. Amendment 199, which the clerk will now read.
Mr.
Amendment
Speaker.
199.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Representative, you may proceed on the amendment.
You go. You're better. Mr. Speaker, this amendment seeks to replace some of the language, in fact, in large part, some of the language that was offered by Representative Kaufer, for one simple reason, and I think you saw it played out in the last amendment. There are those who want to play politics with the Israel-U.S. relationship right now, and that is unfortunate. America's support for Israel is long-standing, it is deep, it is bipartisan, it is unflinching, and it carries on from the day of the inception of the State of Israel until today. Unfortunately, resolutions like this seek to create a political division where one need not exist. Now, I will be the first to admit that the Pennsylvania House State Government Committee, which I have the privilege of being the Democratic chair, and the Pennsylvania House of Representatives is probably not the most learned body on issues of international law. In fact, I'm willing to bet that House Security Council resolutions 242, passed in 1967, 338, passed in 1973, 446 and 79, 452 and 79, 465 and 80, 476 and 80, 478 and 1980, 1397 in 2002, 1515 in 2003, and 1850 in 2008 are probably not as well studied in this body as the EITC and OSTC. But by incorporation, the resolution in front of you that the gentleman offers would incorporate our opinion on longstanding United States and international policy. Now, I have already stated unequivocally in the past amendment offering that I believe the UN Security Council is the wrong body to dictate terms for peace in the Middle East. But I am equally sure that this body is no more capable of handling issues of Middle East peace than pretty much any other body in the world. But there are some who believe that we should step into the divide.
If you could please suspend. We're just on germaneness here.
No, we're off germaneness.
Are we off of that?
No,
Are we
you guys
still on
won
the amendment?
germaneness.
Oh, that's my fault. But Representative Bradford, could we just have we had a concise summary of the amendment?
Well, I must tell you, Mr. Speaker, we are literally talking about issues of Middle East peace. They've taken 60 years. They're so important, the current president put his son-in-law important. These are the top issues of peace in the world today. I must tell you, they are germane. These are issues that are so important, you're going to get seconds, and the UN Security Council hasn't figured it out in 60 years.
I guess I preceded the motion that I thought might be being made, or maybe hoping that was going to be made. Because
Mr. Speaker, I think you want to be leader.
The resolution is very simple, but please just give us a succinct summary, not of world history, but of just this amendment, and then I'm going to turn it over to the maker of the resolution.
With all due respect, I will try to stick with your admonition. But when this body wants to dictate terms of Middle East peace, I think it should tread lightly. Let's be clear, this has become laughable. This body is not capable of judging whether the UN Security Council vote in a prior administration was the right one. We can argue it till the cows come home. So what this amendment simply does is state what we can all agree on. Democrat and Republican. We support Israel. We condemn terrorism. We condemn incitement. We believe in a two-state solution, a peaceful and democratic state of Israel, Jewish and at peace with its neighbors. That is, without any doubt, the goal of every administration. Even the current administration is against it. Before it was for it, now it's for it again. Everybody's for this two-state solution for peace. So let us step aside from cheap political rhetoric to divide us among Democrats and Republicans, and let's stand with the state of Israel.
Please suspend. I'm sorry, but cheap political rhetoric is an insult to the maker of this resolution, and it is completely inappropriate under our rules. This gentleman is standing here very earnest about the resolution in front of us, which specifically states, and I'm going to read the conclusion, that the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania urge the current presidential administration and any future presidential administrations to continue to support our friend and ally, the State of Israel. Now, we do not need anybody to lecture or to challenge anybody else's motives. You believe that your amendment is appropriate. You're talking about your amendment. Stay with respect to the positive aspects of your amendment, and do not in any way question the maker of this particular resolution's motives. Please, there's no cheap political rhetoric. He hasn't even had an opportunity to speak. Please continue on your amendment, and then let's get to the maker's approach to his amendment and why he does or does not support your amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I do want to be clear. I would never want to impugn the maker of this. I believe that his support of the State of Israel is sincere, and I believe it is shared. In fact, that's why I offer this alternative, because rather than us lining up as blue and red and standing who's more pro-Israel, what I say is let's agree on the common principles. I don't think that's impugning. What I think that's saying is to those who would use, not the gentleman, but those who would use these arguments between difficult decisions that the President of the United States has had to make about how to handle matters in the UN Security Council, a flawed body, admittedly so. But how we deal with that, that's not to impugn character, and I would never do that, and I don't want the gentleman for a second to believe that to be the case. This is a good and honest and earnest man who supports the State of Israel. I share that. I believe we all do. So I offer this alternate language that I believe is better in stating that we condemn incitement, we condemn terrorism, we support a Jewish state of Israel, democratic and at peace with its neighbors, a two-state solution. That is part of American policy since probably anybody in this body was born. So I offer this amendment, and I come forward to say, let us support this alternative language that I am sure will get unanimous support. And let's turn away from those who would use the type of divisive rhetoric that would make support of Israel something other than what it's always been. Unanimous, bipartisan, for all time. Let us stand with the State of Israel and support this alternative language. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir. Representative Aaron Kaufer on the amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first start off by saying that I strongly oppose this amendment. The maker of the amendment said at one point that he said something along the lines of that we all agree in a two-state solution. In order to have a two-state solution, you have to have both sides that recognize that even the other one exists. And we do not have that today. One side does not even exist that the State of Israel has a right to exist. I agree that resolutions are politicizing the U.S.-Israel relationship, but it's not this resolution. It's the one passed by the UN. It's hard for me to stand up here as somebody is joking about Middle East peace, joking about it, in an issue that is wholly serious. In the current resolution, and I quote, decades of political maneuvering have created a disproportionate number of resolutions, reports, and committees against Israel, according to the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. I don't believe that this amendment is the right one, and I would urge my colleagues to vote no. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be recognized on the amendment? All those in favor will vote aye. All those opposed, nay. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? And the clerk will record the vote. The nays are 118, the yeas are 65. The amendment fails. We'll now proceed to the resolution itself. The question is, will the House adopt the resolution? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, yes. Representative Vitale, you may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with the gentleman from Montgomery County that it's totally inappropriate for this body to be considering whether or not to condemn a United Nations resolution. That's just not what we've been elected for. That's not what we've been trained to do. We really shouldn't be doing this. But as rank and file members, we need to vote what's in front of us. And having said that, I just want to add a couple of facts to the situation. House Resolution 43 asks us to condemn this UN resolution, and I did, in fact, pull up a copy of UN Resolution 2334, and just wanted to add a little to this. We are being asked to condemn a resolution that has been unanimously supported by the UN Security Council. I just wanted to state some of the reasons why the members of that Security Council voted for, by a 14-0 vote, this resolution we are being asked to condemn. This is what the French ambassador said about the resolution we are being asked to condemn. The Security Council had clearly stated the obvious, that settlement activities undermine two-state solution. So France supported the resolution we are asked to condemn. This is what the British ambassador said. They supported this. Israel's settlement expansion was corroding the possibility of a lasting peace in the Middle East. He supported this resolution. We are asked to condemn it. This is what John Kerry, our U.S. Secretary of State, said. The resolution we're being asked to condemn, he said, this rightly condemns violence and the incitement of settlement activity. Germany, again, supported the resolution we're being asked to condemn. It said, Israeli settlements of occupied territory is an obstacle to a peace and the two-state solution. Norway. It's important that Israel complies with this resolution, because the settlements are a violation of international law, and Sweden, and on and on. It's also important to note that during the previous administration, there's been more than 100,000 additional settlers in this occupied territory. So although I do not think we ought to be voting on this resolution, I don't think we're trained to do it. I don't think it's appropriate for us. I do think what we're being asked to condemn has been universally supported in the international community.
Representative Kaufer, before you speak, does anybody else wish to speak before the maker of the resolution? Representative Kaufer, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to correct the record, it was a 14-0 with one abstention, and I think that one abstention is what's important to this underlying resolution. I just wanted to make sure that that was of record. And this resolution also did pass unanimously in the State Government Committee, just for the record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge you.
All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. Members will proceed to vote. Have all the members voted? Have all the members voted? And the members who are present on the floor do need to vote. Okay. My understanding is this Representative Vitale wishes to be placed on leave without objection. That will be granted. All those in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, nay. Members will proceed to vote, and the clerk will record the vote. The clerk will record the vote. The yeas are 179, the nays are 3. And at this time, Representative Aaron Kaufer is recognized on unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleagues for passage of House Resolution 43. I just want to draw an important parallel. Today is known as Shushan Purim in the city of Jerusalem in Israel. In the book of Esther, King Ahasuerus gave the Jews of his ancient Persian capital city of Shushan an extra day to uproot the evil followers of the wicked Haman who sought to annihilate the Jews. Today, Shushan Purim honors the historic and eternal bond between Jerusalem and the Jewish people, and I just want to mark the significance of the resolution passing today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, sir.